What's up guys, Jimmy here, and today I want to talk about stage lag in Street Fighter V while playing online. This topic comes up on every single stream that I do because I don't like to play on training stage anymore because I don't see the benefit. And nowadays, whenever I play somebody on any other stage, basically, they come to my channel usually and they tell me it was laggy because it wasn't on training stage. Now I used to believe that myself for a long time, but at some point I became skeptical. First of all, every single time I played on any other stage besides the grid, it was the same game. It wasn't any different. The rollback was equally bad. The netcode is pure shit. We all know that. It's not something that is unknown. But the thing is, if I went back to training stage and I played somebody really laggy on Field of Lag, it wasn't any better on training stage. The visual effect on the grid might be a little bit better, especially if you compare it to Field of Lag, for example, because training stage has a static background, right? So it doesn't really change a lot. So when there's massive rollback going on, the only way to tell is by looking at the opponent's character model, which is visually a little bit more pleasing. But in no way does that actually help you hit confirming. If you have massive rollback on Field of Lag to the point where it's visually hurting to look at the screen, then the game is completely unplayable to begin with, and both unplayable on the grid and on Field of Lag. Now what I just said is just my personal experience with the game. Your experience might have been completely different, and I know for a fact there are people, for example, who cannot play on the plane stage like Skies of Honor in Street Fighter V. I have no issues whatsoever with this stage. I can actually play on it just fine. I don't feel any different about it compared to any other stage. But because I know people actually feel motion sickness on that stage, I don't pick it in an online match, so I avoid it. The reason I'm making this video is because I want to spark a conversation in the community, because everybody seems to have blindly accepted this idea that training stage offers a better experience online, and I want to challenge that. And I think it's important to challenge something that has never been proven to begin with. So in order to figure out if training stage actually performs better than other stages online, I recorded a couple of my online matches in a lossless format and ran it through a program called Teardrop. If you're interested in replicating this test yourself, I'm going to provide a couple of links down below. The more data we have on this, the better, so I would encourage you guys, please try it out for yourself and see what kind of results you get. The more data we have, the better. So now let's finally take a look at some footage. What you're about to see is the replay of an online match analyzed in Teardrop. The reason why I wanted to do it this way is because I want to have a lossless recording of an online match and a lossless recording of the replay of the same match. This way we can basically have the same match analyzed both online and offline. So this is a lossless recording of my first generation PlayStation 4 running an online match as a replay. This is the offline portion essentially. We're going to take a look at the live online match in a second, but first let's take a look at that. At the bottom you can see the frame rate. This should be at 60 FPS at all times, and on the left side, right above the frame rate, you can see the frame time in millisecond. This one is also really important because it shows us when each frame was actually drawn, on what millisecond it was drawn. So you want to have this as consistent as possible as well. One thing that is important to note is this tool will report frame drops at the start of every round, and that's because of how this program operates. FPS is counted just as unique frames. So if there are a couple of frames that are not unique, those are considered dropped frames. And because of the transition, there's going to be a black screen for a couple of frames. The program is going to consider those dropped frames. So don't be irritated by that. That's totally normal and we can't really avoid that. Okay, so let's finally take a look at this footage that I provided. As you can see right at the start, because of the transition, there was a couple of frames dropped, totally normal as I said. But if you also paid attention to the very start, right when the match started, there was a single frame dropped, which is pretty interesting, and you'll see later on it's going to happen a couple more times. So right there was another one, as you can see. So 2 frames so far dropped during this match. This was quite surprising to me at first because this is offline, this is the grid, this is basically the perfect way to play the game, right? And still, we had 2 frame drops, and there was a third one. And you'll notice that every 17 seconds or so, there's going to be a single dropped frame in this lossless recording. Now, at first I thought there's something wrong. Maybe I made a mistake in this specific recording, but yeah, you'll notice later on that no, maybe not. Maybe not. So yeah, I think this is good enough for now. Let's take a look at the online portion now of this same match. So the lossless real-time online match that I recorded. Let's take a look at how that one plays out. So yeah, here we go. This is the online match, the live recording that I did. And yeah, as you can see, it's pretty much the same thing. 60 FPS, no drop frames so far. And yeah, one thing that is going to be noticeable though is there it is. There's the drop frame that we saw in the offline replay. It's present in this live match as well. It's just shifted a little bit. But it's also every 17 seconds, you'll notice this, every 17 seconds there's going to be a single drop frame. There it was again. And yeah, basically you cannot really tell the difference between the online portion and the offline replay that I recorded. It's just that the frame drop is a little bit shifted, but that's about it. So now let's take a look at something even more interesting. We just took a look at the training stage, but now we have everything side by side. 3 replays of online matches, so this is technically offline gameplay. Does Field of Lag or the Christmas stage offer a worse experience than the grid? So the Christmas stage is in red and Field of Lag is in green, and if you paid attention so far, they're pretty much all the same. All of them, by the way, have the 1 frame drop every 17 seconds, which is really interesting and really weird. But yeah, Field of Lag does not cause any offline lag. At least in my test, it did not perform any different than the grid, and the same applies to the Christmas stage. But yeah, this is just offline gameplay. Let's take a look at the online matches that I had and see if the games behave the same way. So yeah, here are the online matches, the lossless recordings of these online matches, and you'll notice that they're basically the same thing. It's kind of interesting because I didn't really expect this to happen. They all perform the same way. And this indicates that at the very least, frame drops do not occur online, at least in this small test. As I said earlier, I really want to encourage you guys to test this out for yourself. The more data we have on this, the better. This is a very small sample size, and maybe there is something wrong with other stages. But in this test specifically, there was 0 difference between training stage and the other stages. They had exactly the same problem. Every 17 seconds there is exactly 1 drop frame, which is actually not a big deal. In most cases this will not make any difference, so that's good, but still kind of weird actually to find this. I would love to see if others have this same issue, every 17 seconds 1 frame. Kind of weird. So yeah, those results were quite interesting. Shoutouts to my subscriber, Xeginus, by the way. Thank you so much, man, for playing those matches with me so I get those lossless recordings. By the way, the matches that you just saw were PlayStation 4 versus PC. And the connection quality was surprisingly good on my end, even though I know the ping was around 60 milliseconds, which isn't terrible, but also isn't quite optimal, right? And he reported quite a lot of lag on his side. I'm super curious if you make like a lossless recording from both sides at the same time and then analyze the data. That should be very interesting, and I think that's something I want to do in the future, especially because the PlayStation 4 has a reputation of not being able to maintain 60 FPS and therefore cause issues in cross-platform matches. So yeah, I own the game on PC as well, so the next thing I'm gonna do is just test if the same issue exists on PC as well. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that video. It's kind of interesting how I started off this video trying to show whether training stage offers a better experience online versus other stages, and I ended up with a completely different issue. So now at least I have something to investigate on. But yeah, in conclusion, does training stage offer a better experience online? At least when it comes to FPS, this does not seem to be the case. But once again, this is just a very small sample size. I would love to see people do their own tests and maybe get different results. At least then we can actually talk about this topic properly. So yeah guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. There are so many different angles you can take on this, and as I said, this is surely not the last video I do on stage lag. So yeah guys, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.